Greetings, this is Terra Illumination. We're going over the cusp. It's time to talk about the lunar nodes, Aries North Node. We've just had 1.55 years of North Node in Taurus. Well, it's changing now. So I'm going to try and do a little description in advance. So I'm basically hoping to make 13 videos, this one being number 1, which will be to try and give you an idea what the lunar nodes are. I'm not an astronomer, and I'm not very good at all the physics and math, but I'll try to give you the best explanation that I can. So to do that, we're going to go over to the stage where we work. All right? Let's have a look. We know from looking at Wikipedia and so on that the lunar node cycle is about, 18.6 years. Okay, so when you break that down, let's see, 18.6 divided by 12, because in astrology, Western, we have 12 signs, so I'm just going to chop it up into 12. It equals, oh, I did it wrong. Excuse me. 18.6 divided by 12 equals 1.55. Okay. Divide by 12 to account for 12 astrology signs, which are roughly broken up into the pizza pie chart that we've seen many times on my channel. So I'll do a little note here. Maybe I should use the old Sharpie. There we go. Here we go. Remember, I'm not an expert at this stuff. I'm just trying to share the little that I know so that it helps you. I'll start over here like we usually do, Aries, Taurus. Let's just work there for now. Over the last 1.55 years, we have had what's called the North Node moving through Taurus. Okay, it went from here to here. And now the North Node is here. You've seen this on my charts many times. I'm just going to put a kind of a squiggle like this. We're right on the cusp between Taurus and Aries. And the symbol for the North Node looks like this. The South Node, which is over here, looks like this. So over here, we're looking at Libra and Scorpio on the old South Nodes. So this storyline is over, and this storyline is over, and we're entering a new storyline now for the Aries Libra North Node. Okay? Sorry, the Aries North Node, which means also the Libra South Node. So over the next 1.5 years, this nodal point is going to move like this. Up to the 30 degree mark or the 29.9 degree mark. And then it'll go through another cusp into Pisces and so on. But for now, over the next 1.5 years, we're going to be dealing with this journey. Okay. So, I'm going to try and do something on top of that for you. So what is the lunar? Where does it come from? It's been known about since human people have been looking up into the skies. And they realized it was closely related to the patterns of eclipses, and that the eclipses couldn't happen. They never happen unless it's something to do with the way the moon orbits, and they've gradually figured it out over time. So I'm going to try and do an astrodoodle, but it's more about the lunar nodes than the typical, astrology pie chart. Let's see if I can do this. Here's one example. Let's say this is the sun, okay? And this is the what do they call it? The ecliptic, or this is the orbit of the Earth. It goes around the sun like this, okay? So I'm going to put a line here for the orbit of the Earth. That's Earth. And the Earth goes along this plane, okay? Zooming around, or maybe it's that way, I don't really know. Now, we all know that it takes 300, okay, this is the sun, okay? And here is the Earth. Uh-oh, there's a cat here. Oh no, I went away. Okay, there's the Earth. And looking sideways through the solar system, it takes 365 days to go from there all the way around over here and all the way back over here. From the top, I don't want to do it from the top right now because you'll see why in a moment, but I'll do that. Actually, I'll do that right now just to clarify. Here's the sun. Here's the Earth. And looking at our solar system from the top, of course, the Earth does this. Here's the sun. Now this is a very, very precise circular orbit. I mean, as precise as you can get. It does wobble a little bit, as you can see from my artwork here. But if you turn this on the side, the solar system on the side, this is what we would see. We would just see the sun and almost all the planets just kind of going around this very long, like a wheel. Okay? So the thing is, like with a lot of moons that are on other planets, they have their own individual orbits. And on Earth, we have a moon that orbits not exactly on the axis here, but just off the axis. So pretend this is the moon. Can you see that blob there? Pretend that's the moon. And it orbits around the Earth like this. Or maybe it's that way. So you've got multiple orbits happening simultaneously. You've got the orbit of the Earth going whoa, whoa, whoa. And then you've got the orbit of the moon going around the Earth at the same time, going like, so effectively it's sort of like this. All the way around, and so on and so on. And what astronomers realized is that this is a very exact thing. That degree of tilt is exactly 5.2 degrees off the main central axis of the solar system. So from the top, the orbit looks like this, and it makes perfect sense. Okay, there's the sun, there's the Earth, and there's the moon. And the moon goes oddly enough, there's 28 days in a lunar cycle between, I'm not going to go into the full moons and new moon cycles here because that'll just get me bogged down and confused. But it takes 28 days for the moon to do one of these. 28 days. And when you do the math, it works out almost exactly to 13 orbits. In other words, 13, it does this 13 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay? Now, while it's doing that, it's doing its whizzing around the Earth thing at a slight angle. And long, long, long ago, the early astronomers realized, wow, that's interesting because it lines up with these eclipses, which can only happen when the eclipses can only happen when the moon is somewhere near this point here. Let me show you. Okay? Over here, right here, because those are the only points at which the moon and the sun and the earth are all pretty much in alignment together. In other words, this line here matches the earth and the moon orbit. So over here, that's when the eclipses occur, depending on how accurate they are, you know, because they have different shadow points on Earth. It doesn't cover the whole Earth all at the same time. Now, so that's the tilt there. Let's just say that's the orbit of the moon, and you can see it going like this. And at this point here, and remember on the other side, let's do it like this. This point here and this point here, I don't know if you can see that. I'm not used to doing these kinds of videos. You see this point here and this point here? That's when the moon is exactly in line with the main axis of the solar system, or at least with the orbit of the Earth relative to the sun. So it's happening all the time. It never ever stops. So these points here started to become very interesting and significant to astrologers. And they seem to line up very closely with the eclipses, and that's because eclipses can only happen when these things are aligned. So they decided, what are we going to call these points? Because it's not really a planet. They just decided, let's call it a node, the node. And the North Node, now this is where it gets tricky. The North Node is when it looks like the moon is ascending. Let's say, so let's look at this map here. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Actually, maybe I just better make another doodle. Gosh, please don't hold me to accountability on all of this. I'm just giving you my best impressions. There's the Earth. And the Earth has its orbit. And let's say the moon is whizzing around slightly off. Let's say that's the axis of orbit for the Earth. And the moon is whizzing around here. It sort of goes like this, right? So, you can't even see it from that way. How am I supposed to do this? No, it's better. Let me scrap that one because it's not going to work. I can only do it two ways. Earth, moon. Okay? Here. This is where things match up in terms of the orbit. So they decided to call that the node. And then there's a North Node and the South Node. So they decided to call the North Node the one where, remember, this is the Earth here. This is not the moon. This is the Earth. This is the moon, and the moon is doing its thing. They decided to call the North Node the point in the axis where it appears that the moon is ascending relative to the axis. And then over here on the other side of the orbit, it looks like it's descending. So they decided to, so I guess you could look at it from the top. It would look like, okay, there's Earth again. And then there's the moon orbit. So the point where it looks like it's ascending would be here. The point where it's descending would be here. And what I'm trying to tell you is that this circle here is actually tilted. It's, okay, let me do it like, if I could do it like this, okay? This circle here is tilted like this, okay? So that would be the point where it looks like it's ascending. In other words, it looks like the moon's path is lifting up from the axis, okay? So they decided to call that the North Node. That's where it, and if that's the direction of the orbit, that would be the North Node, okay? And they gave it a symbol. And as it loops around and goes down over here, they decided to call this the South Node. And then they started to observe human behavior over thousands of years, and they realized that there's a pattern in human development that is associated with this nodal phenomenon. In other words, with the geometry, the sacred geometry, the math, the magnetism that occurs between Earth, Moon, and Sun. Okay? Way back here. Earth, Moon, and Sun. They have magnetic poles, and so they realize that, wow, if we start to look at human people on a mass scale, and we line it all up with what we know about astrology at the time, they realize that, oh, there's a pattern. Wow. They realized, oh, that's so cool. Excuse me. Amateur astrology class, please forgive me for my ignorance here. They realized, oh my God, it looks like the nodes go backwards compared to the planets, because the planets appear to go this way in terms of Western astrology. This is Earth view, and the Sun would be over here, but we look at it from an Earth-centric point of view. So from an Earth-centric point of view, the North Node appears to go this way. So they realized, oh my God, it's basically like having another planet. And it has associated patterns, just like planets. But these are very profound patterns and, let's say, characteristics that go very, very deep into the soul of human people. So, gosh, it's a completely different story for each sign, but we're focusing on the Aries section here. So, 18.6 years ago, this is what the lunar node chart looked like, okay? And then 18.6 years before that, it was there again, and then again and again and again. So it's a pattern. And so they figured out, well, it makes kind of sense. Whenever the moon goes through the Aries North Node, they discovered that large numbers of people exhibit behavior as if they have a lot of Libra characteristics. I'm not going to go into all the storylines for all the nodes. It's going to be hard enough for me just to do this one nodal story, okay? So what the early astrologers realized is that there's a pattern here. I'm going to use some color now. And they realized that human beings are born with kind of like a default setting. And over a period of decades, they noticed that very early on in the life of human people, under this particular nodal chapter, this axis, this 1.55 year journey, actually I should mark that here. This journey here for Pisces, for example, is 1.55 years. And then the astrologers realized, oh my God, that's so cool. So over here, on the Libra South Node, it's also a 1.55 year journey here, because the nodes always work in perfect opposition, okay? So every time the North Node moves over here a degree, it moves over here a degree, and so on over a period of 1.55 years, broken down into each degree. So let's think about it this way. So they're born with this default setting of the Libra South Node. And over decades and decades, the observers and the astronomers realize that the people born at this particular time start to suffer from, let's say, default subconscious behavior that starts to no longer serve them. In fact, it starts to become an impediment. And they start to learn in a typically almost like a random, uncomfortable, chaotic way. People who are seeking to evolve and grow discover that there's a whole other storyline that's available and open to them that the astrologers call the Aries North Node, and that's like a journey. So if you think of this like as a map and a compass, and it always points this direction, the North Node is always here. It's in perpetual motion, of course. The North Node is always shifting, like so. But right now we're at the point of critical mass because the North Node is moving from Taurus into Aries. We're at the 0 degree point right now. So we're talking about a whole group of people. Like if you're born right now or in the next 1.5 years, you're going to be born with an Aries North Node. Just like if you were born in the middle of early November, you would have a Scorpio sun. Or if you were born in the middle of early August, you'd have a Leo sun, and so on. So people who are born with this right now are going to have an Aries North Node. And so over the extended years of the lifetime of these people, in about 30 years from now, sometimes it's even longer, all these people born during this time, in other words, middle of 2023 to the end of 2024, I guess we should mark that as well, mid 2023 to the end of 2024. I could get my charts and do it accurately, but that's a journey. And people who are born in that time period, 1.55 years, they're going to have a North Node point at some place in their chart. If it's at the end of the year, it's going to be way over here, and so on. So let's get back to the basics. What the astrologers discovered is that the default setting for folks born with that, let's say, that mark, that South Node, exhibit strong Libra characteristics and behavior in the life of those people, in the younger days especially. So what do you think of with Libra? You think of relationships, harmony, balance, peacemakers. Almost when you take it to an extreme, let's say there's a person A and person B, the Libra characteristics over here would be for, let's say, the person we're talking about. Let's say they have a Libra South Node. Their default setting would be to automatically prioritize the other person and the relationship above themselves, which is a very classic Libra trait. Like Libra traits often show up as people who love to be in relationship. It's almost like they can't function without a relationship. They don't really know who they are without a relationship. The mirror of relationship, the sacred mirror of relationship, is incredibly important to Libra folks, especially if it's sun, moon, and rising. But we're talking about the South Node here, and it's almost like it's a much, much deeper phenomenon, much harder to understand, because it's almost like it's deeper in the soul at the most like gut emotional levels. Because it's all based around the moon. Think of your gut, instinct. So, classic Libra characteristics, harmony, balance, seeking peace. It's almost like finding any way to get peace and harmony and balance in the relationship dynamics for those people, even to the expense of themselves. And you can start to see, like, if you take that pattern or that behavior too far, it actually becomes detrimental. You become your own worst enemy. If you start expecting so much out of other people and relationships in order for you to feel good, you're going to start to get more and more and more disappointed the older you get, when you realize, actually, there are a lot of people out there who don't give a crap about me. They don't give a crap about relationships. And that's like, oh, well, wait a minute. I've given everything I have. My whole default setting is to consider you. Why are you letting me down like that? And he says, well, I'm not you. I don't do that. Like, I got other stuff to do. In fact, I'm more attracted to that person over here. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. That means I'm alone. I am my singular self. Ah! But they keep falling back into that. It's like quicksand. It's like goopy tar. It's like, oh, I can't handle it. I have to have that relationship. And they so the Libra South Node folks start defaulting into that vibration of Libra behavior that becomes unhealthy. In other words, it's like codependency, or the dissolution of self, the dissolution of sovereign self, in order to try and maintain and continue what would be the ultimate desire for the South Node person, is to have this wonderful thing called like this idealistic relationship. I am here for you. And then the hidden message is, that means you have to be there for me. Otherwise this isn't going to work. So you can see it's guaranteed to fail. So eventually what happens for people with Libra South Node characteristics or indications in their chart is that there's going to come a point in time when they're going to realize they're being, it's like they can't rely, they can't lean on the relationships. They're going to end up very disappointed, lost and confused, derailed, betrayed. Anything and everything that could go wrong with love and relationships and harmony and balance is what's going to happen. And so that becomes so terrifying that the Aries North Node person who has the default setting of Libra South Node, they're going to continuously try and hold on to this thing which is their default setting. But the evolutionary journey and the growth pathway is exactly in the opposite direction. Okay, I'm going to take a break here for a second. I hope everything I've been talking about so far makes some kind of sense to you. There's probably tons of stuff out there on YouTube and, blogs and whatever. I'm just giving you my own rendition, okay? So, where does that leave us? Well, the early astrologers started to realize, there's something that happens with these people born with this characteristic. They eventually go through periods of immense disappointment and upheaval in their lives as they start to realize that they're sacrificing everything else to the relationship to the detriment of themselves. And it's just, can't keep living that way. And so the people with the Aries North Node reach a point, like a break point, where they say basically, screw it. Screw you. I'm out of here. I'm going to just take care of myself. I'm going to put me first. It's all about me now. I'm just going to do what you do, because you obviously don't care about me anymore. Our relationship and my love for you is low priority. It's very obvious to me now. I've given so much, and I've lost so much. There's no point. I'm just going to become like you. I'm going to be like a complete asshole like you. I'm going to be totally selfish. I'm going to put me as number one. I'm going to put me above you. I'm going to put me above our relationship. How do you like that? And the other person's like, well, I've already gone. I don't give a shit. Bye. And then you're left, no, I can't do that. Come back. I didn't mean it. Can you see what the problem is here? All right. So anyway, what happens is, after repeated events like this, the Aries North Node person starts to realize there's no going back. It's always going to default into bad news. So what am I going to do? So the Aries North Node person starts to realize, learning in this very kind of groping, lost manner, like, I'm not built for this. I have no idea. I have to put me first? That's selfish. That's mean. It means I have to prioritize my thoughts, my feelings, my needs, my desires, my wishes, my agenda, my truth, my journey in life ahead of you. Ahead of you. Ahead of you and ahead of you and ahead of you. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. Actually, that felt quite good. Hmm. You know what? This actually feels pretty good. I feel a lot happier and healthier when I actually start to reclaim some of me for me. And screw you. Oh, whoa, that felt good. And so once the Aries North Node person gets a taste of the North Node, it's like this delicious, brand new, almost like drug experience. Like, oh, that felt so good. I'm going to do more and more of that. But they always reach a point like, oh, in their evolutionary journey where they can't go any further because they just haven't evolved that far, and their default setting takes over. So the learning journey kind of goes in this direction. Doopy 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 doop. Oh, no. No, I'm going to break this pattern. I'm going to break this pattern. I'm going to keep going. Oh, that feeling. Now I'm going to put me first. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm too me. I can't do that. No one's going to like me anymore. I'm going back to there. And it's kind of like this back and forth motion. But eventually, in a healthy person who truly wants to evolve and they become more and more awake as they evolve, then eventually the journey does head this way. And the person starts to deliberately carve out an Aries journey. So let's have a look at that. Think about Aries. What does that, mean to you as the viewer, as the listener? Think about the Aries energy. Let's be really blunt here. Me first. I'm the winner. I'm right. I apologize later. I don't ask for permission now. I already know what's right. I'm going to do what I have to do. If you don't like it, that's your problem. Okay? I need to win. I like to win. I like being me. I don't care if you can't handle that. That's your problem. I was born with the right to be me, and I'm going to be me. I'm not going to let anybody get in the way. I'm good at what I am doing. I'm physical. I'm active. I like to be first. I like to be in front. I don't like to apologize because I don't see any need to. It doesn't mean I'm a mean person. It just means I'm living my life, my sovereign life, my sovereign self. Okay? All right? So, as you can see, that's very contrary to the Libra vibe. But there's such a thing as a good, healthy Aries energy. Take that healthy expression of Aries energy. You would want that on your side as a friend. Like if you're in trouble, Aries is very straightforward. Like if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, if they want to expend time and energy with you, putting their time, their energy, expending that and sharing some of that with you, it's a form of like an expression of love. Be grateful, because if it starts to not work out, they're gone. They also have there's also this strong heroic kind of vibe that goes with them. Like, I don't want to get too sentimental or sloppy here, but it's like, think of warrior energy. It's almost like they're born to fight for what is right. How do you define what is right? That's more of a subjective thing. But the Aries symbol, Aries energy, is Mars. Mars is the warrior, the fighter. I gotta go do what has to be done. I have to get. I have to have. I have needs. I'm not going to depend on anyone to give it to me, so I have to go and get it. It's very unambiguous. It's really blunt. It's right in your face. And with really healthy Aries expression, you wouldn't want a better person at your side. Okay? So long as the dynamic works, because they can be very forgiving. Like if they understand that you might be a bit, flaky, or like, I don't know if I can, they might take you under their wing as a sort of like a pet, like, oh, you're just a little, You're a flake. You just don't know how to stand up for yourself, dude. Don't worry, you got me. I'll be your big brother. I'll be your big sister. Don't worry about it. If they want to mess with you, they got to go through me. You know, that kind of vibe. Okay? So anyway, let's get back. So what happens? It can be very disorienting for the Libra South Node person to get a taste of the Aries North Node. They almost feel ashamed, guilty, embarrassed about being themselves to the point of putting themselves first, realizing that they have a right to be their own unique self. Their identity, their sovereign self, their pure core nature is completely non-contingent upon anyone or anything else. Imagine saying that to a Libra South Node person when they're like 21 years old. They would be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's ridiculous. Nobody behaves like that. Everybody loves and everybody needs to be loved. Everyone is in relationships all the time. And the Aries person could say, well, actually, yeah, I have a relationship too, but there's no way I'm going to let that person ride me over. You see, they're so complimentary, but they're so alien. And you can also break it down in another part of astrology, which is the house. This is the first house. This is the seventh house. This is the house of self, the house of selfhood, the house of the sovereign self. You. Look, when you're first born, there's no one else there except you. You are the center of the universe. Everything revolves around you. Little babies are that way, okay? They don't really know what they are. They scream, they cry, they yell, they laugh, they poop, they pee, they vomit, they sleep, they wake up. Then they start to develop characteristics and behaviors, and they show personality and things. But they have to learn that as they go. And the Aries energy is all about that. Like honoring themselves. In other words, like love thyself. Now it sounds very, very selfish because I actually had that on the header for my channel. Love thyself. And a lot of people are embarrassed to do that. I think there's a lot of conditioning that goes on in this world that condemns people like this. Condemns people who give themselves permission to be themselves. Okay, there's a lot of massive, deep wounding in human society. A lot of people on a mass scale. Remember, Chiron is here right now. The wound, the deep, unhealing wound of Chiron in Aries. That is you just have to look at global news like I do. You can see how 8 billion people, 8 billion minus the global elites at the very, very, very top. Those 8 billion people, a lot of them are abused or highly abused, and they're just waking up. Think about what's happening in China. Think about what's happening in any Marxist communist organization. That's the business model. Abuse your people in order to, enhance the self, okay? So that's a very toxic version. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is that this is not a switch. It's not like, oh, thanks, I just watched your video, Tarot Illumination. Now I'm going to switch from being a South Node Libra person into an Aries North Node Libra person. I get it now. Thanks very much. Bye. It doesn't work like that. It's a long, slow process because it's really all about undoing the default setting here so that you can release yourself from the quicksand and the perils and it's almost like a black hole of the South Node. After you've met enough people, after you've done enough astrology readings, and you start to mention things to do with the nodal axis, you'll start to realize how important this stuff is. So, for example, what about the people right now who are, let's see, 18.6. Let me do that. 18.6 times 2 equals. What about the people right now who are 37 years old? Okay? And to 38 and whatever it is, 39. Those people who are of that age are going to go into their second North Node. You could almost call it like a North Node return. Now, I just happen to know a few people in that category. And I know one person in particular who's gone through a monumental shift of grasping what this all means. And the full understanding of like, oh my God, I love all the wonders and everything and the delicious feeling of having love and relationship, all that good stuff, okay? But the discovery that you have a right to be you and that you are born as a singular entity is such a destabilizing phenomenon that it's taken years for the person to figure that out and understand it. Now, there's a lot of academic and theoretical and actual biological, physical absorption and understanding of what this really means. But again, the journey doesn't stop because they're going on for the next stage. This is going to be, the next 1.5 years are going to be very, very important for those people. Okay? And then in another cycle, 18.6 times 3, by the time they reach almost 56, they will have mastered, well, not mastered, they will be a lot more fluent in what it means to be a North Node Aries person. Okay? It's an incredible journey. Now, everything I just described here could apply to any other nodal axis, but I'm just talking really about the Libra Aries one. Okay, so this is the backdrop. I'm hoping that everybody watches this video before they watch a video about their own North Node. And what does it mean for them? And where is it happening in their charts? I don't know if I can actually do that. So don't hold me to it. But for now, I'm going to kind of leave it like this. You know what? I should get the ephemeris and show you. Here we go. You'll see from the numbers that they go backwards. Excuse me. Where are we? July, August, September. All right, let's see if I can find it. All right, here, you know, I mean, it's not a planet, but it effectively operates as though it is a planet. And they're mostly retrograde all the time, as far as I know. I'm not an expert astrologer. Don't ask me. Please don't ask me. But, for example, let's see if I can find it right now, right here. Okay, yeah, we're right on it right now. Okay, so, I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera. It's not working very well. Okay, if you can trust me, we are at the 0 point right here. Right here. That was July 8th. So today is the 11th. I'm making this on the 11th of July. So we're still at the 0 degree mark here, at least for another 10 days or so before it moves into the 29 and then the 28. In other words, we're here right now at the 0 degree mark. That correlates to here in the ephemeris. The ephemeris is it's a chart of all the degrees of the planets as they're moving through the different signs, the different degrees of the signs. There's 30 degrees here, okay? So it's starting right now, and it's going to move here in a steady pace for 1.55 years. And I'm not going to do it here, but you'll see that the numbers diminish 29, 28, 27, 26. Let's have a look. 25, 24. And by the end of the year, we'll be at about 22 degrees. Okay? So, you know, somewhere in here. Okay? So, between now and the end of the year, we're going to go from roughly here to here with the North Node. And at some point, the North Node is going to conjoin with Chiron and Aries. I think that's going to be a huge, well, for me, it'll be a huge event for the world and for people across the world, where I feel that human people across the world are going to wake up and realize that we have been asleep for so long, and we, the people, need to reclaim our sovereign selves for ourselves, okay? And screw giving everything away to the other party, like we did with the Taurus Scorpio axis over here over the last 1.5 years, where everybody who took all their honest, legitimate, hard-earned money and they stuck it in a bank, or they took out credit cards or loans, or they trusted their broker, or they're trusted in the American government and the Federal Reserve and the banking system, now to realize that it's a massive black hole, scummy, evil scam. Okay? I'm not saying bad things about Scorpio. I'm just talking about the unhealthy aspect of the Scorpio South Node. So I've done a lot of that in other videos. But anyway, so for now, let's kind of leave it at that. The journey begins now. Aries North Node for 1.55 years. Then it's going to go into Pisces. But for the next 1.55 years, the North Node will be in Aries. So all the people born between now and the end of 2024 are going to have that axis in their chart somewhere. So that's their learning journey. Okay? So, okay, I'm just going to... I think I should just leave it at that for now. Otherwise, I might just get myself into trouble, and I'll open the door to questions that I can't answer. All right, so I hope that helps people understand. I'm sharing what I can in a way that I hope is digestible and makes sense to somebody who doesn't even have a clue about astrology. Okay? Thank you very much. Take care. Have a super journey. Remember, stay on path. Follow that compass. Follow your North Node. Oh, well, that means I should do a whole other video. Where is your North Node? Oh boy, I've just opened up the door to a whole host of issues. Anyway, stay on path, follow your North Node, love thyself. Bye.